Hello and welcome to Understanding Narcissists. Thank you so much for joining me. In this episode, I want to touch upon something that occurred to me probably within the last few days, in that normal sort of going through life type of experience, which is there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of difficult obstacles that you come across. And inevitably, in life, there are things that you may not be able to overcome or beat exactly. There are things that you can't escape. There are objectives and goals that you set out to achieve, that you figure out a way to overcome obstacles, but there are also realities that you face. Probably the morbid one, which is that, to the best of my knowledge, there is nobody walking around on Earth that will escape death. Everyone is going to expire at some point. I don't want to touch upon that for the negative feeling that it might inspire, just to point out that we all know we're not in control of everything. And we accept that. And we take that into account when we make choices in our lives. Those realities can direct and influence our own actions, our own behaviors, our relationships, and the things we decide to do. Now, how is this relevant to narcissists? Well, it's a curious thing if you've ever been in a position where a narcissist has to confront a certain reality. Because they're people too, and they, believe it or not, are subject to the same limitations that we are. They can't cheat death. They have physical limits that they can't exceed, and whatever other capacities that we're all subject to. I know I'm going on and on about this, but I think it's important to lay a groundwork that is necessary for understanding that narcissists are as human as we are. Why is that necessary? Because when I was growing up, in all of my experiences, everything that's gotten me to this point, it was so hard to accept that the narcissists I knew, particularly the ones in my family, were anything less than superhuman. Now, of course, logically, I never reached that conclusion. I never thought that. But I felt it, and they made me feel it. They made me accept it or know it to some degree. Because that's the feeling and the reality that they instill in you. And so it's an earth-shattering moment when you see just how human narcissists are. And more important than that is how vulnerable they are. Because in this way, they're not only human like us, they're even more subject to limitations. They succumb far more to challenges and difficulties. They are far more vulnerable than you and I are. Why then is it even conceivable? Would you even think that narcissists somehow have these superhuman abilities? Now, I'm not trying to impose that on you. I know that was me that said that was my experience. But it's been the experience of a lot of enablers and victims of narcissists, but particularly the enablers because they're so wrapped up in it. It is a shroud that they are stuck in. And even to this day, I'm sometimes baffled at how human the narcissists I know are how wrong they can be in their judgments. Because part of the illusion that I grew up in was that they were infallible in a really intellectual sense. Not, and I suppose all narcissists are like this to some degree, again, not in the intellectual sense of an academic, because that's not, that nobody's an academic in my family. So that nobody's steeped in any real academic discipline. It's more pragmatic in how practical they are, or possibly street smart, savvy in that way. Again, I don't have to go into all narcissists are basically like that anyway, but they'll take whatever they can get, whatever they happen to be into, how they really kind of ended up. And that was so pervasive and so strong that I didn't know anything else. Particularly that the narcissist was so adept at figuring everything out. They knew everything. And this was with several people I know and grew up with. So you can imagine what effect it had on me when I had to see how weak they were in the face of reality, to the point of really delusion and outright denial. The level, never underestimate the level of denial a narcissist can live in. Never underestimate how swift and agile they are in producing an environment where it is so easy and preferable and favorable for everyone to deny something. They're so good at making it in your best interests, not just through threats, but through your own identity and your own self-esteem. They're so good at making it in your best interests to go along with them. And so there has to come a time when they face a reality and you have to see just how vulnerable and incapable of handling that reality they really are. And it's a very unfortunate and shocking event for the both of you, because it destabilizes everything. Narcissists often provide this illusion of stability, that they're in control of things. It's as I said again and again, a dysfunctional, codependent, whatever relationship where you rely on each other in a dysfunctional way that is destructive to the both of you and indulging in both of your vices, both of your weaknesses. Okay, they're bolstering your problems and exacerbating them, and you're doing the same for them. And it feels like comfort because it isn't healthy. It's what you're used to, a dysfunctional coping mechanism. They're strengthening that. You're strengthening that within them. And it's a very quick, explosive event, usually a crisis, where you and the narcissist have to face this sort of revelation in your own vulnerability. And as an enabler, it is so immediately distressing and shocking. And also, in another way, kind of a relief, but still unpleasant nonetheless, that the narcissist can't handle it. They can't handle anything. They're not up to the task. And that is something that is so hard to describe. The reason I brought up mortality as heavy as a subject as that is, that's where you'll see it with narcissists. I've talked about how narcissists really have an unusual relationship with death, in that I find they're pretty candid about it, as in they appear to accept their own mortality, But I suspect, strongly suspect, and have good reason to suspect that in reality, they don't really accept it. And somewhere it doesn't register in their minds. And they just keep on denying until they die. That was something that hit me way after the fact because I had to see it again and again and again until it was really undeniable that this was in existence, that this was going on. And I don't know what purpose this video is supposed to serve. It's not me revealing something about myself for the sake of it, though I have no problem with that. I just don't want to be one of those guys that just talks on and on about himself. I want to have some kind of import and relevance to you. But as I was thinking about this topic, I find it endlessly fascinating the extent to which the barriers break down and you're so fragmented in your dealings and your interactions with a narcissist and what they do to your mind that's terribly destructive and harmful. I try to find the best in it. Try to figure out how you can use it to benefit your life, because I do think it's also enormously beneficial, but that doesn't make it really any less painful in my experience. It's just that this eternal conflict that goes on and you have to kind of deal with for the rest of your life and what they do to you, and how vulnerable and exploited they make you feel. And then when everything gets turned on its head and explodes, as in a crisis or a really debilitating event, something that they just simply can't cope with, that is so frightening and I dare say liberating at that point as well. There's a little bit of those crisis points kind of contributing to your recovery, or really even your escape before recovery, because there's these moments where, you know, things don't work out so well and life throws these novel and unprecedented and unforeseen circumstances your way. And that's kind of the point of life, in how you grow with your response to it. Like, that's what you're trying to improve a lot of times. Nobody's sitting around, well, I don't want to say that. I'd like to think that most of us aren't attempting to control the machinery and the workings of reality, how things are actually going on. We try to understand it and engineer it to the extent that we can and that we know at the present time. But it seemed to me that a superior philosophy is not so much planning every aspect of your life and trying to account for everything, though that can work too in good measure, but honing your response, honing your ability to adapt and change and respond to things that are perhaps inevitable, but you don't see coming and you don't know are going to happen. And I think that having to grow up and live in an engineered environment for so long, like I did, and maybe you have to, there's something affirming and comforting almost when you realize the whole control doctrine that the narcissist lives by and adheres to, and this sort of prevailing belief that you can control everything and you should be on top of everything, it doesn't exist. And when you discover that and witness it for yourself, it sort of opens things up for you and relieves you of having to control everything and schedule everything and plan everything and simply figure everything out beforehand. Yes, you still have to discover things for yourself and figure things out, and there's things you're responsible for. But the narcissist would have you believe so much that just isn't true. And my gut tells me that they don't believe it either. And that's their fear, that they know it isn't true. But it sure helps when you believe it and help them contain sort of your own little world and reality that they can control. And it's a very unsettling thing initially, because it's so nice to have this environment that you don't have to worry about imploding on you. You're so insulated. You're in charge of everything. But it's really a prison that they use to grab you when you're at your most vulnerable and you're most fearful. That's usually when you're going to end up with a narcissist a lot of times, especially people who otherwise wouldn't tolerate narcissists. They're going to find you and exploit you when you are receptive to them and get you into this world and habituate you to it. And that's something that eventually will erode and fall apart. As I've gone along here, I find that more and more, again and again, there's always that hope, there's always that chance and possibility, and maybe inevitable result that something's going to occur and break you out of it, especially when you're informed about it and you're looking at it, narcissism, trying to get a sort of semblance or hope that you can get away, get that affirmed. And that's kind of what I try to do with every one of these videos, is try to move that wavering belief whether the narcissist is the danger or not, and get you over to a point where there is a catalyst, however unfortunate, that pushes you through. And then you're in a completely different state where you finally can start living your life for the first time, or maybe again. Anyway, I hope you like this video. Like it if you do. Share it with somebody you think might benefit from it and also like it. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this video. If I rambled on too long, it occurred to me at some point within the last few days, and I really thought, this is a good topic because it's something that's affected me so much, and maybe you like it too. And if you did, let me know and share with me your experience about really those critical points where things fall apart and what happens. Sometimes that's mostly completely out of your control, that creates a sort of upset that frees you from the narcissist's control and the shackles and everything. Something that liberates you, even if just emotionally too, because that's really where it gets started. So let me know. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.